When I was in college, I got involved with a paranormal research group through a friend of mine. We'll call him M. M knew I had a general interest in the occult, something that would flourish as my time in Georgia went on, and had decided that I was a sensitive, someone who could feel spirits. I don't know if I could or not, but he was insistent enough for both of us, so I went along with it. M was, of course, our occult expert. At the time, I thought M knew a lot of things and had some kind of otherworldly knowledge about the avenues of occult workings, but he ultimately turned out to be a really good grifter. He curated this mystique about him that was alluring to a certain type of woman, and it helped him bounce from bed to bed in the 3 or 4 years that I knew him. We were joined in our ghost hunting adventures by a woman named Eva, who is still doing ghost hunting in North Georgia to this day, as far as I know. She had a lot of equipment for ghost hunting, things she had picked up from previous failed groups, and was our resident tech head. I'm pretty sure that she and M were together, though maybe not officially, and we stayed in touch after the group broke up. Our fourth was a guy named Simon, who kind of reminded me of Dib from Invader Zim, though I'm not sure he was doing it on purpose. He fancied himself a cryptozoologist, and was also a wealth of information when it came to conspiracy theories. He believed everything, from alien abductions to the FBI's assassination of JFK, and you couldn't convince him that any of it was anything but gospel. He was friends with M, and it sort of made M our de facto leader. We rode around in his mom's white minivan, Mystery Inc. style, and helped people who were experiencing strange activity. We did this for about 6 months before Eva and M began to argue and Simon graduated and moved to Pennsylvania. We had some fun times in those 6 months, though. Most of it was curiosity work, standing in cemeteries and taking pictures to get spirit orbs, taking recordings to hear sounds, and the usual kind of things ghost hunters do. There's a few other standouts. I might tell you about them sometime, but the one I want to talk about is the case I remember as the Smokehouse. The Smokehouse was unique because it was one of the few cases we had that made me think what happened might have been our fault. The family that lived there was called the Fosters. Mary and Kevin, not their real names, but close enough. They were recommended to us by a professor at college, a friend of theirs. They had recently noticed a strange smell in their house that no one could explain. They had been to electricians, home inspectors, and contractors, and they had all kinds of inspections and offers and such, but no real answers. They'd come to the professor, and he had come to us. Their son died a year ago, and they're afraid that his spirit might be haunting the place. I don't know why they've come to this conclusion, but they want someone to take a look who knows what they're doing. We pulled up to their house at about 6:30, just as the sun was getting low. M said that it would be more mysterious if we arrived at sunset, which might cast us in shadows, so we'd look more legitimate. M always seemed more interested in optics than actually doing anything. The couple was older, maybe late 50s or early 60s, and they showed us in with smiles and questions about drinks and food. Some of us ate, some of us drank, and we all listened to what they had to say. "We've lived here for 40 years, bought it when we were newlyweds. Andrew, our son, was born here. Didn't quite make it to the hospital, so the wife had him right here in the kitchen. He lived here until he was 19, when he decided he wanted to be a firefighter. We were proud, but not very hopeful. Andrew had tried to go into the Army and was refused. Tried to get into the police academy the year before, but just couldn't make it. Now, it was firefighter school. We figured that this would make 3, but he excelled at it. He got into shape, he learned the material, and not long after, he was a firefighter." The woman sobbed a little, looking down into her coffee cup before her husband continued. "Our son was a firefighter for nearly a decade, until he died in a fire trying to save a family from a collapsing building. They brought us his fire coat and his helmet, and we brought it home and made a little remembrance wall. It's in my wife's sewing room now, along with a picture of him, and we find it a great comfort. A couple of months after he died, the smell began. It's a smoky smell. I'm sure you smelled it since you came in. The others have smelled it too, but none of them can find it or make it stop. We've tried to get rid of it through normal means, so now we're attempting to get rid of it through less conventional means. We'll pay you if you can figure out how it's doing this. So, we set to work. Eva set up some cameras and microphones, Simon helping her, and Em and I set about being sensitives. Em would ask me what I felt, and I would tell him what came to mind. He would always nod, eyes closed, and then tell me what it meant like some pocket sage. He always understood what it meant, understood with that maddening way of his, and I just kind of accepted it. I didn't sense much, scuffling in the attic that turned out to be squirrels, the hum of the washing machine, a slight creak that could be nothing more than the house settling, but nothing of any substance. It was usually like that, but any little thing always meant something mystical, that Em could hear phantom voices and the rattling of an old water heater. But we never really questioned him. Questioning in that community was frowned upon. If you called someone out on their bullshit, then they'd call you out on yours. We were all just trying to see what we could do to be real magicians, I guess, hoping it would be us that was the next Luke Skywalker or Harry Potter. We all wanted to be special, but we mostly just looked ridiculous. After about 3 hours, Eva hadn't gotten any audio or video, and I hadn't felt much more than the hum of the washing machine. We were at a loss for the smell, something all of us had to admit that we were smelling, but of course, Em had the answer. He went to the memorial wall and pointed to it, nodding as he wove his hands before it. There's a spirit attached to this coat. He is displeased at being deceased before his time, and what you're smelling is his spirit. I'll tie a charm to it and put a circle of salt around it, so that the spirit might disconnect on its own. Do I have your permission to move it? The Fosters said that he did, and he took it down as he moved it to a spot on the floor. He looked at it and then added the helmet, too, before encircling the whole thing in salt. He held his hands out once he was done, speaking low before raising his voice and speaking to whatever spirit he believed had attached itself to the jacket. Spirit, I beseech you to move on. Your life here is no more. You must go to whatever lies beyond. Be gone from this house. You are welcome here no more. Then he spouted some pseudo-Latin at it and forked the sign of the evil eye. There was no pillar of fire, no unearthly laughter, and we all just stood there and watched the coat, ignoring the blackened marks on the arms. When he was satisfied, Em told them that if the smoke smell came back again, they should call us immediately. If it hasn't come back in 3 days, then you can hang the coat and the helmet back on the wall. They thanked him, and when he slipped his hand into his pocket, I realized they had given him money. When he climbed back into the van, and Em decided not to comment on it, I realized he didn't mean to tell us about it, though. 2 days later, I got a call. It wasn't from the Fosters, it was from the police. They had Em down at the station, and they wanted the rest of us to come down too. Apparently, the Fosters were dead, and their house had burned to the ground. We understand that you and your friends were there the day before. Do you mind if we ask you what you were doing at the Fosters' house? I explained what it was our group did, but the officer in charge of my questioning just scoffed. So you didn't do anything, is that what you're telling us? Yes, sir. I have left nothing in the house, and when we got in our van, the Fosters were still very much alive. He nodded, taking a picture out and putting it on the table. Does this look familiar? It was a little grainy, but it was clearly the remains of the coat that Em had circled in salt. The charm was still attached to it, and the salt around it was undisturbed. That's their son's coat, the one who died. My friend Em put a circle of salt around it and affixed a charm to it because he believed that a spirit was attached to it. Neither are flammable, and we in no way started that fire. They had a few more questions, but they ultimately had to let us go. There was no proof that we'd done anything, but go in and play pretend for about 4 hours, and they had to turn us loose. We all decided not to talk about it again, but I think we all realized that something had happened there that night. We had made something angry, and it had killed that nice old couple because of it. We had not been the cause, not really, but we had also. If we had let it go, they'd probably be alive today, while still dealing with a smoky smell. After that, we were a little more careful about how we interacted with spirits. Actions, after all, have consequences.
You're still here. Thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague here. Always a pleasure to see all my new and old viewers coming by for another one of my spooky tales. If you'd like to support the show, you can always take part in one of our channel offers through Fume or Aura, or you can just click on another video when they come up. I'd really appreciate it. For our newer viewers, we also have lots of playlists and other things if you'd like to get caught up. I know some of my series have been going on for quite a while. If you'd like to get my latest book, there's a link down below that'll take you to my Amazon page. Towesey Homestead just came out, so if that's something you'd like to get your hands on, go ahead and have a look down there. If you'd like a signed copy, you can go ahead and email me from my email address on the site, and I'll get with you about shipping information and ship you a signed copy. If you'd like to support the channel in a more monetary fashion, we also have membership through YouTube, and we've got a Patreon that you can get the information for in the description. We have lots of tiers and everything to suit your needs. Patrons that support on the $10 tier, that's our Ghostly Reader tier, get a book anytime I write one, signed and on their doorstep. As you may have noticed, there's a list of patrons and members on the screen, and I'd like to personally thank every one of them for taking a hand in the future of this channel. Well, that's enough for tonight. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.